Ladies and gentlemen, from your left, the Mig15. State-of-the-art Soviet fighter. Our pilot is Norwegian, Ken Arkavista. By 1950, as the Cold War began to bite, swept wings were a way of improving jet fighters' performance dramatically. At the end of World War II, the Soviet Union, Britain and the United States all managed to find various German aerodynamicists who had all perfected swept wing during World War II, took them away and started to develop their aeroplanes. In the Soviet Union, the Mig15 was the answer, and here it comes again. The British solution to swept wing fighters took a little while longer than the Soviets and the Americans. The Supermarine Swift and the incredible Hawker Hunter were the early 1950s. In the United States, the North American corporation at Inglewood in California developed the quite exceptional F-86 Sabre, and it was Sabres and MiGs that came to clash in the skies over Korea.
I think maybe it's fair to point out, Ken, that the Russians rather surprised the Americans when they developed this aircraft. They really stole a march, a bit like the space race, the first into space. And of course they were overtaken later on in the 1950s and 60s with much more superior fighter aircraft. This MiG really was the first, and as we'll see later, it pitched propeller against jet, as you mentioned earlier.
And we have to say that the main boost, literally, of the MiG-15 was that they got the technology of the Rolls-Royce Nene, or some would pronounce it Nen, engine. They were given several of these as a gift from Clement Attlee's government immediately post-war, and they were cannibalized, reverse engineered, and became the power plant for the MiG-15. This machine is a two-seater. It's called a MiG-15 UTI, but it is as capable of performing as the single-seat fighter. The Soviet pilots that flew during the Korean conflict flew in aeroplanes that carried the markings of the North Korean Air Force. The Cold War being such that Stalin's Russia did not wish to placate the idea that they were fully at war, particularly against the United States of America.
Ken, if I could set a little poser, you mentioned the Rolls-Royce engine there. I wonder if anybody in our wonderful crowd knows why Rolls-Royce named their jet engines after rivers. There's a poser for you.
And we should point out there is absolutely no prize.
Oh, I thought it was a weekend away with you. I beg your pardon.
Second prize is 2 weekends away with me. The F-86 Sabre and the MiG-15, quite similar looking aeroplanes in terms of size, that wonderful swept wing. And in air combat over Korea, there was one very good visual signal. The MiG-15, as you can see here, no trace of smoke in its exhaust. It's a very clean machine. The F-86, however, the rule was that if it smokes, it's ours.
Nearly 18,000 airframes built by MiG and others under license, a lot of them for the Chinese Air Force, and quite a few still in service today, would you believe, some as two-seat trainers, and many in airplane museums around the world.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the north, to your right, you can see two other aeroplanes in the air. These are thoroughbreds. By 1950, they'd already fought in one war. These are a pair of North American P-51 Mustangs. And indeed, Mustangs did tussle with MiG-15s, and there were several victories scored that way. And we have to say that Lieutenant Carmichael of the Fleet Air Arm, operating off HMS Ocean in a Hawker Sea Fury piston engine fighter, also managed to down a MiG-15. Next poser, why MiG? Well, it's a combination of the two designers, Artem Mikoyan and Mikhail Gireyevich. MiG.
Well, you never fail to disappoint with the facts, Ken. Certainly quieter than that Typhoon, that's for sure.
There's very nearly 55 years difference between the MiG and the Typhoon in their timeline. Look at the changes in that comparatively short time.
The main aerodynamic principles remain the same, that's for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, taking stage centre now, Lars Ness and John Dodd in the P-51 Mustangs. And one of them, the Shark, and the other one, Miss Helen. And the Mustangs have got a bead on the MiG, and they're in hot pursuit. Don't forget, there is a massive performance difference between these aeroplanes. The MiG carries lethal cannon. The P-51s, they have 6 50 cal machine guns, 3 in each wing.
Worth remembering, of course, the Mustang P-51 was at the forefront of the end of the battle for Europe, escorting B-17 bombers on high-altitude raids. They were being beaten up by Luftwaffe aircraft until the P-51s came along to escort them, and pretty well after that, the survival rate increased.
Max, this is absolutely typical of the Scottish International Airshow. Where else on the planet are you going to see 2 Mustangs chasing a MiG? Brilliant, brilliant piece of work.
What's fascinating is piston versus jet there, that high-performance piston engine chasing that MiG. Very rare sight indeed these days.
The early 50s was just that moment where the piston engine finally was giving out and the jet was in the ascendancy.
Here's a lovely sight as they're coming in right across the crowd line with that slightly improving weather as well. Things are looking good. Also one of the most impressive aircraft parked on the ground, the P-51. You stand close to one, it's quite an awesome piece of equipment. Wonderful aeroplane.
Another factoid, Tom Cruise owns and flies a P-51 Mustang.
There we are. There you go again, Ken. You never cease to amaze me.
He was only reminding me of that over a cup of tea last week.
Well, you wonder if they had their guns blazing, whether they'd have caught the MiG on that fly past there with their cannon, positioning cleverly behind the jet fighter, so it's a case of, rather than speed, more about manoeuvrability and position.
Now, we were talking about the MiG getting a lift in technology from the United Kingdom, the Mustang had its life completely transformed by Rolls-Royce. The Mustang started off as an urgent requirement for a fighter by the British, and in 117 days North American Aviation got the prototype in the air in October 1940, powered by an American Allison V1710 V configuration engine. Not good, it was okay low level, but it was wanted high level. Rolls-Royce at Hucknall stepped in to the fray, and in 6 weeks in 1942 they removed the Allison engine, put on a Rolls-Royce Merlin, and the Cadillac of a fighter of the P-51 was born.
I hope it's not inappropriate to mention, Ken, the reason why we haven't seen the BBMF is they have a problem with the Merlin engine, and for safety reasons they have grounded the Merlin powered aircraft while they investigate the problem and give the engine the all clear. So that's why we haven't seen the BBMF in all their glory this weekend. But I don't think we're doing badly despite this weather. I think here they come then for their fly past the P-51 Mustangs and the Mig15.
Get your cameras ready, folks. This is exceptional. And I think a wave and a clap would be good news. Brilliant. Max, you're right. We're just talking here about that, and we're saying, Max is saying it's a privilege to see such a formation, and it is. While they're coming back around, I'll hit you with another factoid. The guns on the Mustang only allow 13 seconds of fire. You've got to be really clever, and most of the pilots were trained to do a 1.5 second burst. Another factoid?
Oh, hit me.
At full throttle, a Mustang consumes 2 gallons in a minute of fuel. Now I know what you're all thinking. I had a car like that once.
Yeah, I've still got one. Well, are we going to see them one more time, Ken? This rare sight here at the Scottish Airshow, beating the weather as well as everything else.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the MiG, Ken Arcavista. In the Mustangs, Lars Ness and John Dodd. Brilliant pilots, superb aeroplanes. Both the Mustangs are operated by Boltby Aviation Academy at Goodwood in Sussex. They're both 2-seaters, and for the right amount of money you could go flying in them.
Well, it's worth mentioning Boltby are operating in Scotland in the month of September. I saw an internet post, so if you want to check out their website, the Boltby Academy, and you have pockets deep enough, you may be able to afford a flight in a vintage Spitfire up here in Scotland. That's about all I know about it, but check it out on the net for more details. Boltby Academy.